Thank you very much for making time for us. I'll start by asking you, we've been seeing you very vocal, especially the latter part of 2015. First, what is your assessment from the opposition of how the government has performed in 2015?
Well, I would say that this is probably the worst year for the Jubilee government. I think they tried much in the 2013, and they performed marginally better in 2014. But I think this year has been a year of scandals, as you may call it. There's very little which has happened in the government that somebody can point out this is a positive development. So on a scale of 10, I would give them 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Yes.
Right. Many would say they wouldn't expect you to give them anything above 4, or you to say they've done anything good this year. What would you have to say to that?
I'm always very fair. Even if you look at how I said them last year, I give them 50-50, 50%. So I'm always very objective in my assessment of what the government does. I think if you look at the areas of economic development in terms of infrastructure, very little has gone on, apart from SGR, sorry, which is basically a grand coalition government project. And it's moving because it is being done through technical cooperation and assistance from the Chinese government. That is the only major thing that is even contributing to the kind of economic growth that we are seeing. Agriculturally, in terms of agriculture, again, farmers have felt the pinch. You can see the coffee and tea sectors, farmers are crying, whether it is in maize and wheat growing areas, farmers are in distress. So they have not performed well in agriculture. In the area of industries, very little industrial growth can be talked about at all. But the area where they have, according to them, performed best is in the areas of corruption. You see, we have seen massive wastage of public resources in several ministries. The president started early in the year, in March, by declaring a war on corruption and saying that he was drawing the line and that he was going to lead from the front, and then tabled in Parliament a list of shame, 175 names of prominent civil servants whom he said were under investigations, and he gave the Anti-Corruption Commission 60 days within which to conclude the investigations and prosecute those people. To date, nobody has really been prosecuted successfully to conviction as we stand. Quite a number of them have not even been taken to court.
But you'd agree with the amount, the number of cases, it's not easy to finish them off quickly. Plus, they say the ball now is in the judiciary's court. There's nothing they can do when the case is taken to the judiciary.
Very few have gone to the judiciary, as I know. There's only one of Engineer Kamau, which was taken to court, for example. Those so-called high-profile cases. The Honorable Chari Tingilu, Kazungu Kambi, they have not been prosecuted for the cases for which they were accused. Then you see that at the time...
They have been charged in court, though. Some have been charged in court, yeah.
Yes, some. I'm saying at the very same time when he was tabling this list and directing the Anti-Corruption Commission to complete, he started the process of dismantling the commission and forced the 3 commissioners to relinquish their positions. So you ended up with a headless commission without commissioners. Now, an independent commission should not be directed by the president, given timelines within which to complete investigations. Two, that commission is not a commission without commissioners who enjoy security of tenure. That is what means independence.
Right.
Now, he only has now technocrats left there. So that actually spoke volumes about his determination or commitment to fight corruption.
Although the EACC, the current CEO, has said severally that he is independent, and lawyers on both sides are saying, I mean, it's always up to interpretation that it still remains independent. It doesn't mean that it cannot perform or cannot work without a commission.
You see, commission must have commissioners, my understanding. Or is it a commission without commissioners? There must be commissioners who enjoy independence, security of tenure, who cannot be directed by the executive or the judiciary or the legislature. See, this CEO is an employee of the commission, hired by the commissioners. And the law says that they need to implement resolutions of the commission. So the commission must meet to pass a resolution which it is supposed to be implementing.
Okay.
As things stand right now, there's no commission.
So what you're saying then is all the cases there, I mean, will amount to nothing? Is that what you're saying? What they're doing will amount to nothing?
Most of these people are going to challenge the legality of the commission and its ability to carry out prosecutions. Because most of them are saying this is not a commission, the true meaning of the law. And I totally agree. You just ask yourself, why did the president do this at the time when he was declaring war on corruption? Why did he then see it necessary to push the commissioners out of office?
Okay, you're talking about lately a lot about the Eurobond. You're saying money has been embezzled. First of all, you say you actually know who is behind this. Why are you not saying who, like you said, who has embezzled that money? Why are you not telling us who that person is?
No, I have not said that I know. I have said, and this is also on record in writing, that the figures do not add up. That the figures they've printed and posted on their own website and in the other various reports which they have given out do not add up. And it's not only me saying it. A number of people, even reporters, have actually agreed with me that there is a big gap of 140 billion shillings, to be correct, which they can't tell us where it went to. The other day they produced the bank statements from JP Morgan and the Central Bank of Kenya. That even raised more questions than it answered. It actually confirms, because you can see that there's $1 billion which was removed from an account of JP Morgan to no destination. You're not told where this money went to. And then you see that the so-called offshore account was opened. It was opened 2 days before the signatories had provided their names. The account had already been opened, money had been deposited into it without the signatories. So this is shrouded in secrecy, but I know that ultimately the truth is going to come out.
Do you know something people don't yourself about the Eurobond?
I know that the figures are not are cooked up, and my sixth sense tells me that there's a big game being played here.
Okay.
You can see that first there are transaction advisors who were recruited by the consultant from here, that is Diane Blair. They recruited 3 transaction advisors, JP Morgan, the Standard Bank, and Barclays Bank. At the last minute, when the transaction was supposed to start, a 4th one, Qatar Bank, was included from the advice of officials of the government. Therein lies the secret. Okay?
Right. 2 weeks ago, in fact, a week or some days ago, I'll repeat that question again. You are quoted as saying, and we saw it actually on national TV, that within 2 weeks, you will name who is behind this. Are you saying today you're not naming anyone? You don't know any particular person who's behind any allegations of embezzlement?
No, I was talked about the transactions. I did not talk about names of individuals. Okay? But individuals, they know themselves. They don't have to be named by Raila Odinga. See, this is not something that was done by some angels from heaven. It's done by man. And what was done by man even at night will be known in the daytime.
So it may not necessarily, you're saying you don't know who that person may be or who those people may be.
No, I want the government to investigate and tell us. That's why, the DPP appointed the ESCC and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and asked them to conclude investigations and forward the file to him within 10 days.
Okay. You're talking about accounts and the withdrawal of accounts. We saw the control of budget talking about this, and they gave the whole thing a clean bin of health. What would you have to say about that?
I think she's being economical with the truth. She's under a lot of pressure. And I sympathize with her because I know, and she knows that she has told a different story. Before the Committee of Parliament, she told a different story. And I could see her body language later on, that she has been blackmailed, intimidated to change that story. So I don't want to say she's now an accomplished. She's basically trying to protect her job. Now, myself, I've talked to her before I even went public, and she told me a different story. So
you talked to her personally and she told you a different story?
And I know that she's under a lot of pressure, and the government knows that they are forcing her to change her statement. She's a professional lady, but I know that she fears for her job. That's why she's speaking that language. But there's a certain amount of money she can say, yes, this one I saw came in, but there's a big amount of money which she never saw at all. I think the $300 and something million, which she said yes, but there is $1 billion which she never saw.
And that is what she confided in you, that's what you're saying? That's what she told you?
Yes, correct.
That is what she told you personally?
Yes.
Okay. Ruto says you're not being honest. I'm sure you've heard him say it all the time. You're either not being honest about the Eurobond issue, or at worst, he says, you're an economic saboteur.
Who takes Mr. Ruto seriously in this country?
He has his
How
support.
much is his word worth? So that I waste my time trying to respond to what Ruto has said.
But he's a deputy president and he has his support, isn't it?
William Ruto is a hypocrite, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows that William Ruto is very economical with the truth. What he has done, how he has even treated his own neighbors. The other day, one of his neighbors was in court against him for grabbing his piece of land. You know that? There was this piece of land in Ngong Forest, which they then sold to Kenya Pipeline Corporation. The matter is out there. Somehow they managed to get themselves slightly out of the court. The other one is this issue of the playground for school children. I'm very conversant with. So, and then
he has severally said all these allegations that are being made to him, the high priest of corruption and everything, nobody can come forward and present any documents or any facts and take him to a court of law. He's actually put that challenge out there. For all those who are saying all these things, come and challenge me in a court of law.
In which country does he live? His own neighbor took him to court. And this is on record, and you know it, that he was fined 5 million shillings by the court for having grabbed his neighbor's piece of land. So what more proof do you need?
You talk about this school playing ground. You talk about Kenya Pipeline land.
Of course, he will always deny. He will always deny. But look at him. Look at the way he conducts himself in this country. Very, very embarrassing to this nation. You can see every week he's carrying a bag of money to Harambes. Every week he donates 10 million shillings in the Harambes. I have been the Prime Minister of this Republic. In fact, I was earning more money than he's earning as a Deputy President. And we know his other sources of income. Which businesses does he own? What is the source of this money, which he's running around with, so that he can be able to contribute to Harambes 50 million shillings, and then to be jumping up there saying that he's very generous, that there's some other people who cannot even donate a marcus or whatever it is to a tree. I mean, he is an embarrassment to this government. That's why I told the president that if you are telling this country that you are serious about corruption, begin the house cleaning next door to you. Your deputy is leading from the front in this matter. So how can Kenyans take you seriously as a government that you want to deal with corruption when your deputy is flaunting money whose sources are questionable? And so do lifestyle audit, as it's called, of your deputy.
Okay. He says this is not the first time he's donating money. I mean, he's been doing that Harambes all his life. Plus, again, back to the challenge he keeps throwing, like, if you have any information that you think is substantial, bring it forth.
This is not like investigating murder, where you're supposed to come up with evidence beyond reasonable doubt. You look at circumstantial evidence that is available. I'm told you do lifestyle audit. What are the sources of income of this individual? Where does he get this other money that is pushing around every corner? They did it in Nigeria. It landed very many people in prison.
After it was done?
Yeah, at the end of it. Because they just come and tell you what is your source of income the whole of this year. And what about your expenditure. What the gap is, we ask you to answer. And I'm sure he cannot answer. He cannot tell you what is the source of that extra income. Somebody, for example, leaves the university and is not employed anywhere. He cannot show you a pay slip anywhere for all that time before he comes to parliament. When he comes to parliament, he owns this property, he owns this and that and that and that. Can you also not ask, Hussein, these are the sufficient circumstantial evidence to prove some amount of complicity and guilt, if it were.
I want to go on and talk about now corruption still, but the double standards that CORD has been accused of, and yourself. First of all, you talk about corruption. The government decides to suspend ministers. Some ministers are taken to court. Then we see CORD principals or CORD MPs with that minister in court. Case in point, we saw your co-principal, Kalonzo Musyoka, with Charity Ngilu in court. What did that speak in terms of fighting corruption? Because you've been a crusade against corruption.
You see, the Charity Ngilu was supposedly suspended for specific reasons which were given by the president. I think they talked about land in Mombasa, it's called Waitiki land, that she was inflating the price of that piece of land so that she could get some commission. And then there was the issue of the Langata land, but that was not really the case for her being asked to step aside.
Right.
But what was the case in court? That she was blocking officers from providing evidence. I mean, that was a completely different thing. I mean, there is no offense like that. You see, so that was laughable. You said if these people had evidence against Charity, why did they not produce it?
But this is an independent institution, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that has done this. And I mean, they are convinced there's a case there to answer. Why would you say it is laughable, and why would we see court MPs and the court principal going to court with Ngilu?
If Charity had been charged in the court that you, Charity Ngilu, you did ABCD, you inflated the price of Waitiki land, and because you wanted to receive a commission, blah, blah, blah. But people would understand. But Charity came out and said she was not even handling this matter. This matter was being handled by the president himself, according to Charity. This is what he said. And as you've seen recently, they reached a deal on that same piece of land.
Right.
So these people are saying, this is Fitina. This is not the corruption case we thought the government was going to charge Charity with.
Okay.
So we think that Charity is being victimized politically.
But everybody, most of the people who go to court because of such issues say they are victimized. And I don't want to go into Charity's court because the case is there. I mean, I'm talking about the image it portrays, because you're talking about corruption, and then your people are being seen with somebody again who's been taken to court. I mean, it's suspended because of corruption. Does it matter?
No,
Either way, for the image, does it matter?
No, what happens is this year. If there's evidence against Charity, it will come out in the court. She had been taken to court. Some of the people who went there were her relatives, her friends. You see, a lawyer will go to even defend a murderer, okay? If somebody is accused of murder, you don't run away from that person because he's...
But you're not.
Lawyers, you hire lawyers so that the truth may come out.
Yeah.
So the thing is that the fact that they went and stood with Charity in Ngilu does not mean that they believe in whatever she might have done, okay? But the government has got opportunity to produce the evidence in court, prosecute the case. So you don't know.
So in other words, it doesn't matter because
you must always presume innocence until proved guilty through due process.
So why her then? Why not everyone else?
No, but I think
and what if
all those other people have got their relatives, and their relatives, I'm sure, will always go to court. Yeah. So to me, I don't think that you can use that to justify a claim that we are condoning corruption. We are not. And to us, we condemn corruption wherever it is. But that doesn't mean that you will assume that because somebody has been charged with corruption, he or she is guilty.
But you cannot also assume that he or she is innocent, isn't it?
Neither can you do that.
So why would you stand with such a person?
I'm just talking, the case brought so far is not a corruption case.
According to the EACC, it is. Okay, let's move on to another one again.
Yes.
Moses Wetangula, you said, and we saw court talking about Moses Wetangula, that he was charged, found guilty of committing voter bribery by Bungoma Court, upheld by a court of appeal, upheld by the Supreme Court. Yet we saw Coalition for Reforms and Democracy saying again, this is the government fighting them.
You see, what happened was that he was found guilty by the court in Bungoma. And then he appealed against that. And then eventually he was allowed to run in the subsequent by-election, which he won very convincingly, okay? And by the way, it is not the government who went to court again. It is Wetangula who went to court to try to clear his name.
Yes.
And then the court ruled otherwise, okay? This is what it was. Now, the issue has been here, after that ruling, what should be the sentence? And outside there's been a suggestion that Wetangula's name should be
struck off.
Yeah. Our position has been that it will be a double tragedy. First, he had suffered as a result of losing his own position in Parliament and was subjected to a by-election, which cost him quite a bit, but eventually won that. So that will be double jeopardy. In other words, you have lost your seat, You have been compelled to go and defend your seat, then you win back. Now you're being struck again off the register. So they call it double jeopardy. Yeah.
The IBC is going to determine that. But either way, whether you look at it as double jeopardy or not, this is the law, isn't it?
Yes. So that's why we wait for the outcome of the IBC. But that does not stop individuals from making their comments.
And supporting?
Whatever.
Because if you are, like you normally say, you respect institutions and you don't condone corruption, you respect democracy. If you respect democracy, if these are institutions that are saying that this is the Supreme Court, this is the court that has found this person guilty, would it look bad if you're the one?
You don't stop individuals from expressing themselves.
Okay.
The individuals have got a right to speak. You see, they're not necessarily speaking for everybody. But our position has been that this would amount to double jeopardy after Wetangula had already been punished by the same court.
Okay. Some say 2017 may be your last election as a contender. What do you say, and how significant is 2017 for you?
No, I mean, I won't say, I mean, people are talking about the last bullet, I don't know what. I don't know where they've got this idea of only one bullet remaining. I have several bullets in my magazines, still full. So I don't believe that 2017 is my last chance. But I have had several chances before, which have been messed up, as you know. And I've said that if the people want me, I'm going to be on the ballot.
So how it's very important for you. And do you think the Code Coalition will hold? And are you ready to support anyone within the Code Coalition?
Certainly. As you can see, we've been holding against the predictions of our adversaries, those who have been wishing us evil and bad. We have continued to remain stronger and stronger. You can see that they are the ones who are now folding up their political parties, supposedly to be building one unified national party. You know, nothing could be more contradictory. When they formed the National Alliance, it was called the National Alliance that brought all the forces in the country. I wish you could read the founding statement. It was bringing out all the other political parties, including DP, including that other faction, Kanu, which had gone the other side, including all the other parties which were in PNU. Yeah. So the National Alliance took over the PNU, Party of National Unity. So now, I don't know, the Jubilee Alliance Party, how different it is. It's just playing around with words, with names. And even the URP, United Republican Party. It is, united means unity.
What they say they're looking at is to destroy any parties based on regional ideologies or ethnic ideologies.
I don't know what they're talking about. I thought they said they're all national parties. The National Alliance cannot be seen to be a regional party. But you can say, for example, today, ODM is the national party. ODM is a very national party.
But it still has support from regions, doesn't it?
Pardon?
It still has support from specific regions.
There are certain regions where it has got stronger support than other regions. But it has a national spread.
The so-called tyranny of numbers, CORD has been, commenting about it severally, especially in Parliament. What will be the difference? Because Ruto and Kenyatta will stick, they're saying they'll still stick together in 2017. What will be the difference in 2017?
They will stick together. That doesn't mean that their support base will remain with them. Okay? We are more concerned about support base. If support were to remain constant, there would be no need for elections every 5 years. The political parties fight to capture new territories. And as I'm talking to you, we are gaining a lot of strength in their so-called strongholds or territories. And they will be surprised. Yes.
Finally, we know about ICC. Ruto was your lieutenant before. Just recently, you penned a letter in a statement in South Korea saying the president holds the key to freeing Ruto from the ICC. First of all, Are you saying you know now that Ruto was fixed?
Certainly, by their own admission, none other than a very key lieutenant of the president, this is called Moses Korea, is on record owning up to say they doctored evidence to fix Ruto in the court. And I said as much, because as you know, Ruto was with us. If you remember the talks at Serena, chaired by Kofi Annan, ODM was represented by Musalia Mudavadi, William Ruto, Sally Kosgei, and James Orengo. The PNU side was represented by Mutula Kilonzo, Moses Wetangula, Martha Karua, and Dr. Simon Ngeri. So how could I myself then be taking evidence against my own lieutenant,
right,
who was with me on the same side?
Right.
It was the height of hypocrisy.
But people say you are guilty of silence, because why is it that you talked now when Moses Kuria talked? Why is it that you decided to talk and said, I mean, the president holds the key, and you gave actually some other names, like Nancy Gitao, you gave names of Mutia Iringo and all that, that until they say what they know, and they're compelled by the president to say what they know. Why were you silent all this time then?
He spoke even earlier. You remember I even offered and said, if need be, I'm ready to go to the ICC and give testimony and say that ODM did not organize any kind of violence, even when they were using this propaganda against me in the last general elections. I told the people that ultimately history shall absolve me. I cannot have taken the name of William Ruto to The Hague. He was part of my team, and that was the height of hypocrisy then. But then, because of that so-called the most unlikely alliance, because this was the unity in adversity that brought the PNU and ODM part, which were in The Hague together. They formed that alliance, and it actually served their purpose that time to whip up the support of the people by concocting a lie. That is Raila, who actually took Ruto to The Hague.
Right.
So Uhuru, whose team had concocted this evidence against Ruto, was very happy to swim in that propaganda and therefore to go to the Rift Valley and cheat the people in the Rift Valley that, oh, I am one of you. We are both, me and Ruto, are charged thanks to concocted evidence of Raila.
But if you're saying you knew that there was concocted evidence against Ruto, the question is, why were you silent all this time about that specific issue, that there was concocted evidence to fix Ruto? Why didn't you talk about that specific issue earlier?
When the time had come to say it, because this had been known all along. We all knew that the evidence had been concocted. But Hussein, when I'm being told I'm the one who is the fixer, how do they now run to say it's so-and-so who had actually done the fixing? You see, we are the ones who actually wrote to the Security Council at the height of the conflict to say that the government was committing genocide and urged the Security Council to send a team to come and investigate. That is the letter which we wrote. Okay. Because as you can see, people were being attacked and killed in Madare, they were being killed in Kibera, they were being killed in Ruiru, they were being killed in Limuru, in Naivasha, in Nakuru, in Eldoret, in Kakamega, in Kisumu here, in Kericho, in Mombasa. Okay. So we therefore wrote a letter asking that investigation should be conducted, carried out, you see, and they came and did investigations. Okay. So we could not at the same time be forwarding evidence against our own people. But when we wrote, then the PNU people also wrote a letter when they heard that we had written to say that we were the ones who were actually committing genocide. That's how this investigation started.
Okay.
But then, when Justice Waki recommended that a local tribunal be set up, we supported setting up a local tribunal.
Okay.
The other people are the ones who actually refused. But now we reach a stage where we're the ones who are being accused of having sent people to The Hague, when the same people who are opposing setting up a local tribunal are actually getting away with murder. So he's saying that time has come, fortunately, for the truth to come out. And we're happy that ultimately the truth is actually coming out.
Okay, sadly we have to wind up this interview because of time. Maybe you can just tell us your lowest or highest, or your New Year's resolution, how you'll spend your Christmas, and maybe your lowest and highest moment of 2015 as we wind up.
Well, 2015 has got its heights and its lows. I started it on a very sad note. As you know that on the 4th day of the first month of January, we lost our son, Fidel. That was really a very low moment for us as a family, and as a party, and as a nation. I was very happy that the nation actually rallied behind us and consoled us during those very difficult times. So we eventually got over it as a family and moved on. A number of things happened during the year. One, there's an election in Burma. I've been very sentimentally attached to Burma because I got to know those developments when I was living in exile in Oslo, Norway, with the Burmese who had run away, supporters of then a young lady called Aung San Suu Kyi. And she's been under house arrest for a long time. But this year an election took place and her party won the elections. I felt very gratified. Okay. She got the Nobel Prize when she was under house arrest when I was in Oslo. The last one is the elections next door, southern neighbor, Tanzania. Gave me a very cause for joy and hope. That I hope that as you see a lot of gloom within this region, when people are running around getting third term or whatever, removing the term limits, at least you have our neighbor which is sticking to the rules, and that President Kikwete was able to step down and facilitated free and fair elections.
Although the other side claimed it was not free. Maybe some would say, why were you in a hurry to congratulate Magufuli, President Magufuli?
Because he won the elections. Even the other side came for the celebrations and they recognized. So I think that was a positive development. We hope that we can be able to emulate that example. This coming year, we want this year to be a year of unity. We want to see our people strengthen the unity. I did actually send an olive branch to my brother Uhuru last year, saying that we needed to sit down and dialogue so that we could find a way forward. I think there are several challenges that we can deal with if we come together, like this idea of fixing the constitution. I think it's an area where we can work together and talk in the fight against corruption. Again. I'm wishing the people of Kenya a very happy, prosperous New Year. I'm wishing the President and his government all the best. I hope that they may come out with a bigger, better resolve to try to fight the dragon of corruption.
Okay.
So that
sadly, we have to end this interview quickly or prematurely because of your constraints with time, but thank you so much for making time for us. Thank you so much.